This war started when the Joker and I broke up. It was completely mutual. And soon enough, I was back on my feet, ready to embrace the fierce goddess within.
Birds of Prey, The Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Is that seriously the title? Brings us Margot Robbie, and she's back as Harley Quinn after her breakup with her beloved Mr. J. So without the Joker's protection, she's exposed while every two-bit thug goes after her to settle their grievances. Especially by the narcissistic crime boss Black Mask and his right-hand man Victor Zsasz. Harley doesn't stand a chance until she forms an unlikely alliance with this ragtag group of some seriously kick-ass women, who we'll later know as Birds of Prey.
We're gonna have to work together.
Sure.
This film introduces us to Detective Renee Montoya, aka Question, played by the fantastic Rosie Perez, who many of you might remember from White Man Can't Jump and Pineapple Express. We have Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who plays Huntress, who's great at hand-to-hand combat and excellent with the crossbow. We have Journey Smollett Bell, who plays Black Canary, armed with a very powerful voice. And we have the pickpocket Cassandra Cain, played by the young Ella J. Basco. Cassandra Cain is one of several who assumed the role of Batgirl in the comic books. Directed by Cathy Yan, she gives us a high-octane action comedy with some over-the-top stylized violence. This film started off loud and strong like a bull in a china shop. But as great as the first act was, the second act didn't work so well for me. After the brilliant introduction of all the players in the game, I feel like some of the character motivations didn't quite add up and match the various characters' decisions. I found it hard to stay invested in the second act. Of course, I can't really delve into it too much because otherwise that's spoiler territory, but luckily the third act picked up the baton and really ran with it. So the first act was fantastic, the second act was mediocre, and the third act was really good. It's kind of like a reverse sandwich where you have the eggs and cheese on top, you got the bread in the middle, and you got the bacon at the bottom. So it's a bit messy, but still a good sandwich. Now let's talk about Huntress. You got a great actress, a really cool character, and an excellent backstory. But she didn't get as much screen time as I had hoped. Definitely not as much screen time as the other women. We get a couple of great moments with her, albeit few and far between. It's like a well-prepared meal, but presented to you really undercooked. All these food analogies. I think I'm hungry. And there's quite a handful of scenes that really defy logic. There is this one scene, and no spoiler. Cops are there 1 minute, next minute, they're gone. And like I mentioned earlier, there are some character motivations and decisions that were really hard to buy into. I get it, it's the comic book genre and we're supposed to suspend our disbelief. I guess it's harder to accept since we're spoiled with so many other comic book films that have done it better. Now let me tell you all the things the movie got right. Of course I have to talk about Margot Robbie. To say she carried the film is a real disservice to her supporting cast. Because her supporting cast really had some solid performances across the board. Even though the title says Birds of Prey, the spotlight is clearly on Harley Quinn. She played the broken-hearted girl really well, but it's Harley Quinn, so of course we're to expect a whole lot of crazy with a dash of funny. She was the highlight in Suicide Squad, and her performance here definitely doesn't disappoint. It's like the Harley Quinn character jumped out of the pages of the comic books, the cartoons, and the video games. And because of her personality, there were a lot of comedic moments here that I really enjoyed. I touched on this earlier, but I really gotta say, the first act really blew my mind. It shows us what Harley's been up to, introduces us to fantastic new characters, it lays out the board and sets up the players really well. And the opening act really has an interesting storytelling style. It's packed full of vibrant colors, with some fourth wall-breaking narration.
A lot of people want me dead.
All alone.
And at the top of that list is this guy.
Ewan McGregor's Roman Sionis, also known as Black Mask, was really entertaining. He's narcissistic, eccentric, and cruel, and a total loose cannon. Even though I'm not used to seeing him play the villain role, he did a really good job. He's a villain I can't help but love. I know I'm supposed to hate this villain, but I can't. Although I can't say the same about the creepy and sadistic Victor Zsasz, played brilliantly by Chris Messina. Now before I share my final thoughts, just a quick reminder to click like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications to my weekly reviews. And if you like my content and you're feeling generous, become one of my valued subscribers by signing up to my Patreon. Check out the link in the description below. And now for my final thoughts.
I'm here to report a terrible crime.
Starting off with the lows, we've got a weak second act, an underdeveloped character arc for Huntress, and the movie often defies logic. And as for the highs, we've got an amazing performance from Margot Robbie, an excellent first act, and a very entertaining Ewan McGregor. So overall, I really enjoyed this movie, despite its slightly messy story. Is it better than Suicide Squad? Yeah, I think so. Is it the best DCEU film? Not quite. It's R-rated, so it's definitely not for kids. There's a couple of F-bombs and very mild gore. It's stylized action with some comedy, and for those of you die-hard Harley Quinn fans, there's no post-credit scene per se, but more so post-credit audio. But in my opinion, not worth sticking around for. Have you seen Birds of Prey yet? If so, tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. And while you're there, let me know what I should review next. And who am I, you ask? I'm Tom Cruise. Bye for now.
Psychologically speaking, vengeance rarely brings the catharsis we hope for.
Yeah.